You're listening to the All American Actors Podcast, episode 75. In today's episode, we are talking all about how to release the outcome of your next audition. That's coming up next. Ready to go behind the scenes and learn what it really takes to build a sustainable career as a working actor in the U.S. film and TV industry? Join me, Katherine Beck, your all-American accent coach, as I give you the insight and inspiration to take action on your career. Learn my best tips and tricks to performing with an American accent, and hear from working actors and other industry professionals to give you a comprehensive overview of this biz we call showbiz. This is the All-American Actors Podcast. We're going to jump into today's episode in just a moment, but first I've got a big announcement for you. Oh, I'm so excited because I'm going to be opening up the doors to All American Voice one last time in 2022. So if you have been thinking, you know what? I really want to nail this accent before the end of the year, before the start of the new year, start fresh with your mastered American accent, then I am opening up the doors very soon. So you want to make sure you put yourself on that wait list. I will link that up in the show notes for you. I think it's katherinebeck.com/AAV-waitlist from memory, but I will put that in the show notes for you. And I highly recommend it because you're going to be getting my process, my step-by-step process to not just mastering the American accent, but you're going to learn how to create an authentic American character. And you're going to understand how to dissect the script, a U.S. script from the American perspective. These are all really crucial so that you can be believable, not just in your accent, but in your text analysis and in your character. And I tackle all of that in All American Voice. So super excited for those doors to open and for you to join me. And let's get that accent ready to go for 2023. Who's with me? And for those that are already members of All American Voice, did you know that you can join this round as well? Join me in my accelerator classes and get a refresh on your accent. So if you have felt like you've gotten a bit rusty or you just want a little bit more support, you can join in for those classes. Feel free to DM me either way. If you're not yet a part of All American Voice, or if you are and want to jump in on those classes, just send me a DM on Instagram at Katherine_Beck_, and let's have a chat. All right. But before that, I'm going to be doing a couple of free masterclasses next week on the 18th and the 19th of October. 7 p.m. That's Sydney time. So if you are interested in joining me on a free masterclass on how to master the U.S. audition, head over to katherinebeck.com/ACT. That's ACT. And you can register, save your spot there, and hang out with me. I do a live Q&A at the end. I love to workshop with my actors, give you some feedback, so make sure you attend that as well. All right, first, I want to say hello. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that I've been gone. Did you miss me? I did take a little bit of a break from the podcast, but I am back. Let me explain where I was. Some of you might know, I just recently launched a new podcast called The Voice of Your Brand Podcast. So yes, that means I have 2 podcasts. Yes, I love podcasting. Now, the reason for 2, and I have tossed and turned over this idea for so long. Should I have 1 podcast? Should I have 2? Why should I have 2? That's going to be a lot of work. And it is, but I realized I need 2 podcasts. The All American Actors Podcast is a very special podcast. It is geared just towards us actors. Well, primarily towards actors. If you're not an actor, you are welcome to tune in and listen. You'll still get plenty of value from this. But the other podcast is for people who are not actors, who still use their voice as part of their business. So speaking instead of performing. So that could be anyone from a public speaker. Maybe it's somebody who does speeches on stages, keynote presentations, webinars. Maybe you hold a lot of meetings in your office, or you're an online entrepreneur like me. So you do lots of things where you're showing up as the face and voice of your brand, showing up online, doing live presentations, live launches, having a podcast. So we talk about how to use your voice and how to be the voice of your brand in that podcast. So very similar topics at times. In fact, very similar ways that I would conduct a podcast over there that I might on this podcast as well. But speaking and performing really are two different things. And actors, your needs are very different to non-actors. So I needed some time to conceptualize the new podcast, get it going, launch it. If you followed me on TikTok or Instagram, you would have heard the news that we ranked #1 when we launched, which is super exciting. And thank you for all of you who helped get me to #1. I know there are some of you who are listening who followed the podcast, ranked, left a review. So I highly appreciate it. I really, really love your support. But back to this podcast that I missed so very much. I missed you. Did you miss me? I definitely missed you. We're back. And today I wanted to come back with an episode all about releasing the outcome. This is a big one for me. This was a tough lesson for me in auditions. And let me know, how good are you at releasing the outcome? What that means is you get an audition, you're excited, you want to book the role, right? So we put this extra little bit of pressure on ourselves to do a good job and to potentially overthink things that we shouldn't be overthinking or putting our conscious thought into the outcome. You know, we really want to book that job. Let's say it's like the next Marvel movie. And so we put that extra little bit of pressure, whether we realize it or not, because we want to get that role. It could be like a life-changing role where 1 minute you're unknown, next minute the whole world knows you. 1 minute you've got a day job, you're scraping by just to pay the rent. The next day you're earning maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars. So things can change very quickly with just one audition. So it makes sense that as actors, often we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do a good job and to think about the outcome. Now, I bring this up because as an actor myself, I've gone on so many auditions. And when I think back to just a few where I was just so in the moment and I wasn't thinking about the outcome, I was so present, I was so there, I felt a difference. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of when I felt this on camera. The first was my very first ever audition when I was 17 years old and I got my first agent in Chicago. My agent signed me and said, "I've got an audition for you." And I remember getting, I think back in the day, it was a fax machine where I would get my auditions sent to me. And I remember getting it and I was like, oh my goodness, it was so many pages and there were like long chunks of dialogue and I think monologues for me to learn. And it was for a little movie you may remember called Clueless. And I got asked to audition for Cher and for, what was her name? Brittany Murphy's character. I can't remember her name. Anyway, I auditioned for both of those characters. So it was a lot of lines to memorize. It was very exciting. Of course, nobody knew what the movie was, but just reading the audition sides, I could tell it was going to be a really good movie. Like you could tell that this was a great project. But because I was green, I was totally new and I was 17, I was just excited just to get my first audition. And like right away from, the moment I got my agent, she said, "I've got an audition for you." So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And I remember learning the lines. I remember highlighting the lines. I can almost see the pages. Well, I can see the pages in my head. I'm a visual person, so I can literally see them. In fact, when I would memorize things, I had like a photographic memory. And that's how I would remember, is like I could see the pages in my head. So I see the pages in my head. I'm pretty sure I memorized Ooh, it was either a pink or a yellow highlighter. So I may have used 2 highlighters. Maybe I used one for Cher was pink or yellow. Anyway, I'm going off track. But that's the crazy thing about like memorizing is when you've got a photographic memory, you memorize it really quickly, but then you forget it pretty fast. Anyway, couple of things I remember from the audition was for Cher, I'm pretty sure I had to do the monologue where she gets up in class. Do you remember? And she's talking about America or something like that. I don't remember the lines. I forgot because I've got a photographic memory, but I remember it was that speech. And then it was also, I think, 1 or 2 scenes. One was with the older guy. I can't remember his name, who was like, worked for the dad, that guy, Paul Rudd's character. And then the other one was with, oh, gosh. See, now I'm getting old. I can't remember exactly. Anyway, I wish I still had that copy. I remember sitting down on the grass with my boyfriend at the time and learning the lines. And he was testing me to make sure I didn't forget anything. And I just went straight off my intuition back then. And so when I auditioned, I went into my agent's office because this was before like all of the self-tapes and all this. We filmed it on camera. So I think my agent read the lines with me. And then we sent off the VHS tape in the mail. So this is like in the olden days, snail mail with a VHS tape. And I can't remember how much time went past, but some time went past. And I heard back that I got a double callback. I was called back for both Cher's character and Brittany Murphy's character. And I was like, are you serious? It's my first audition. And I got called back for 2 roles. And I was told that they really liked me. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Well, I can't remember. I feel like there was like a second time I had to read it again. So it was like a double callback or something. But back in the olden days, it was much harder to get a role if you were in like Chicago or New York. Like you really needed to be in LA. And I was up against these girls who already had some credits. Not a lot of credits, but they still had credits. I had no credits. I had been in my school play. I think I had done 1 community theater show outside of my school. That was The Diary of Anne Frank. I played Anne Frank, but that was it. Everything else was in school. So I had nothing. I was super green. Anyway, I had totally released the outcome. I had no expectations. And so the outcome ended up being pretty cool. Even though I didn't get either role, I still achieved my goal, which was just to, get that next step. And the next step for me was the callback. So I was excited. Now, fast forward several years later, 2008, I'm in Sydney. And I auditioned for a feature film. When I auditioned for the feature film, I was pregnant, but I was still like very newly pregnant. I can't remember how far along. Anyway, when it said the shooting dates on the form that I filled out, I looked at it and I was like, okay, I can do that. I won't be that far along. Like, I think I can hide the pregnancy. You won't be able to see it so much under my clothes. Cool. So I audition. And when you audition for something and you just feel like I did an amazing job. Like I was in the moment. I could feel the energy between me and the casting director was on. I just left that audition feeling like I nailed that. I 100% sure I booked that. So anyway, I can't remember how much time passed. A little bit of time passed. I'm pregnant. My belly's growing. And I got an email from my agent, or maybe I got a call. Can't remember. Anyway, I found out that I booked the role. And first I was like, yay. Second, I was like, I totally knew it. And then third, I was like, oh crap. Because I looked at the shoot dates and the shoot dates had changed. And they were now when I would be 8.5 months pregnant. So I was going to be like clearly showing. So I called my agent and I said, look, obviously I want to do it, but do they know that I'm pregnant or should we tell them that I'm pregnant? Because obviously they'll be able to see. But the role was for a reporter in this feature film, a little movie called Knowing with Nicolas Cage. And it was it wasn't a big role by any means, but it was a great monologue piece to camera. I really, really wanted to do it. So I said, look, can you just explain to them like the situation? Like, can we work with the framing? Can I still do it? So I was about to get on a flight to travel to the US, visit family and friends and stuff like that. And I didn't hear from my agent. And so when I got back in town, I called her and I said, well, what happened with the job? Like, can I still do it? What's going on? And she went, oh, yeah, no, it's going to somebody else now. And I was like, that's it? Like, are you serious? That was the first time I realized specificity with your agent. I felt like the agent dropped the ball a little bit. I don't know for sure, but I'm not with that agent anymore. I just felt like something happened to where she probably just said, oh, she's pregnant. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll give it to the next person. Like, I don't think there was any fighting for me saying, hey, can we do anything about the framing? Can we do this? Can we do that? I just felt like there was no discussion. It was just sort of a like give up, like, oh, she's pregnant. So that was a good lesson, but I had fully released the outcome on that one. So those are two instances. The third instance I want to share with you is non-acting, but was so profound and so unbelievable and life-changing for me because I learned the biggest lesson about releasing the outcome. And I thought, wow, if I could do that for this, imagine what I could do for an audition. Imagine what other actors could do for their auditions. And it actually sparked an interest in me to get back into auditions, just for the fun of it, just to see. So I'm actually considering in 2023 getting back into auditioning, getting an on-camera agent, and just having fun, releasing the outcome, the pressure of actually booking the role, and see what happens. I'm going to give it a year. What do you think? Should I do it? If you think that I should get back into on-screen and even stage acting, why not? Oh, I love the stage. If you think that I should go back into it, let me know. I want you to DM me on Instagram. In fact, this is what I want you to do. Take a screenshot of the show and tag me on your Instagram story at Katherine_Beck_. And I want you to tell me yes or no. Should I get back into acting in 2023? I don't know. Now I'm getting really excited talking about it. I feel like I need to practice what I preach. I still do voiceovers, so I'm still performing. And so I feel like I'm still in it, but I'm not quite in it. And I kind of feel like I need to practice what I preach. I kind of feel like I've been hibernating since, about 2012. Oh my gosh, about 10 years. I've really taken a step back from my acting career. Maybe it's time. Something's telling me it's time. So I want to hear from you. Anyway, I digress. So the number 3 time where I really learned about releasing the outcome was this new podcast, the Voice of Your Brand podcast. So I had on my vision board, and I shared this story on Instagram, TikTok, and actually on the other podcast, but I'm going to share it on this episode with you because it's so relevant. I had on my vision board the number 1 spot on Apple Podcasts. It was like a little 1 with a triangle play symbol. It was very small. It was on my phone, which is my vision board. Every time I look at my phone, I see my vision board, and it was there for over a year. Anyway, I launched this new podcast. Seriously, no expectations at all. Day 1, I launched, and I had the number 3 spot. I thought, that's cool. Number 3 is awesome. When I launched this podcast, I was number 3, and I was so excited. I had this thought go in my head, which is really interesting, and which is why I bring this up, because I want to know if this is something that happens to you. I thought, well, maybe I'm not meant to have number 1. Maybe I'm not meant to manifest the number 1 spot. I thought I wasn't worthy of it. OMG, how many times do we do that? I justified in my head why I shouldn't get that number 1 spot. How many times do we do that with roles? Justify, well, I didn't get it because of this, XYZ. Oh, massive light bulb clicked in my head. And I thought, no, you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. I'm just going to keep going until I get number 1. So day 2, I wake up, I'm in the number 2 spot. I thought, okay, now I'm close. Now I can do it. Then I was thinking, this can happen. This can happen. I can do it. This can happen. So I kept going for it and doing whatever I could to possibly get the word out and get to that number 1 spot. Day 3, I wake up, I'm number 2 again. That's when, again, that little voice in my head was like, not going to happen for you. You should just be happy with number 2. You are not meant to be number 1. I'm not worthy. I should give up. All of these thoughts were creeping in my head. And I thought, oh my gosh, these are thoughts that I've been holding on to for a very long time. These are thoughts that have probably affected my careers, because I wear many hats, for many years. I'm not worthy. I should just give up. So I almost did. It was day 3 and I thought, number 2, that's good enough. No. Thank goodness I had a conversation with somebody and he said to me, don't give up. Keep going until you get number 1. And I remember when he said that to me, I paused and I was like, ugh, like the weight of that, the fact that I still had to work and felt like I needed to put myself out there and, keep going for it. I was like, oh, this is the real test. This is the challenge for me to push past my limiting beliefs that are telling me I'm not worthy. I should give up. If I do this now, then I am busting through these beliefs. So I did. I kept pushing. I kept asking. I kept spreading the word. I kept announcing. And on day 4, when I woke up, I was in the number 1 spot. So the key thing that I take away from that experience is that when I started the launch of that podcast, I had no expectation. I was not thinking of the outcome. I had a goal, but I wasn't emotionally attached to it. Even though I was on this roller coaster ride of emotions, once it launched, I kept those emotions in check. So when those feelings that could potentially hold me back from getting what I wanted to, what I did was I was aware of it. And then instead of giving into it, I made a choice to move into action towards my goal. So that's what I want for all of you. And that's what I share with you on today's podcast is that as hard as it may be and challenging as it may be in testing, to always release the outcome of your audition. Because when you can release the outcome, great things will happen. And I want that for each and every one of you. I want all of us to achieve our goals. There's a reason why we're actors. There's a reason why suddenly now I'm saying after a 10-year hibernation that I'm going to go back into acting. Because once an actor, you are always an actor. You got bit by the bug, and it's a great bug, but it never goes away. Because if you truly have that love and desire and a passion for this, you just got to keep going and release the outcome. All right, that is it for today's episode. I will be back next week, and I've also got some great interviews lined up for you. I really want to make this a platform to feature working actors who are making it in the U.S. film and TV industry, as well as always, bring in guest interviews that can give you some great insight into the industry and tips on how to get yourself out there, get visible, get known for the actor that you are. So that is it for this week's episode. Now make sure to share the show with all your actor friends. Let them know what's coming up next week and invite them to tune in with you and learn how to become the all-American actor so you can be the working actor you dream to be. Until then, go on, get out there and practice your American accent, and I'll see you back here next time.